I'm Amelie.
And I'm Madison.
And welcome to this month's episode of BookSmart.
This month we're going to be interviewing Sally Gardner.
She's won both the Costas Children's Book Award and the Carnegie Medal for Maggot Moon, which is a fantastic dystopian novel if you haven't read it yet.
And remember, if you want a chance to win a book, then please leave the hashtag BookSmart in the video.
Let's roll the interview.
Hello!
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. How are you?
Nice to meet you. I'm rising you up now, so you're higher.
So we've got a couple of questions for you today. So my first question for you is, in 3 words, how would you describe yourself?
I don't know.
It's a hard one, actually. I don't think I
Yeah.
can think of one for myself.
Are you twins?
Yes, we are, yeah.
I have twins.
Really?
Aw.
Yeah. Mine are now 37. A writer.
Yeah? Nice.
Beautiful. Okay, so my next question is, are you more introverted or extroverted?
I think I'm a mixture of both.
So isn't that called an ambivert, I think?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Could be.
Could be, possibly.
Possibly. Yeah, I think that's true for most people in a way, because I think it's depending on who you're with sometimes, like whether you're an introvert or an extrovert sometimes. My question is, what book are you reading at the moment?
I'm reading so many books because I'm writing another story and I'm doing a lot of research. But the book I really loved reading recently was A Gentleman in Moscow.
So you mentioned your the book you're writing. Could you give us like more information on it, possibly?
Yes, it's going to be called The Weather Woman, and it's set in 1813, when we probably had the first climate moment with our activity. And that was due to sea coal, which we burnt. And the fog that came down over London was so thick that it began to freeze. And people recorded it as seeing like coral grow off the windowsills where the fog had frozen. And it was speckled with black snow, what they called it, black snow. And it was so big that it got into the books. And my character is a young girl who has the gift of telling the weather. She can just do it. And so it's a story about what do you do if you have such an extraordinary talent in an age where nothing much is expected of you.
Yeah.
So
Sounds really interesting,
yes.
by the way.
yeah. So if because she has a gift, if you could have like a gift or power, what would you have?
Well, you see, I think I've been immensely lucky. I do have a gift. I sort of feel it greedy to ask for more. I never realized I had this gift. And so I feel to sort of start saying, I'd like another one, is very unappreciating of what I've got. So I'm very happy.
Yeah, I like that approach. That's very thoughtful, and yeah, I really like that approach. So my next question is, do you have a favorite character from one of your books, and why?
Well, I love Coriander, and I was very keen on one of my characters called Amaryllis Rubens, who from Double Shadow. And then there is Standish Treadwell, which is always close to my heart. And I just written a book recently, Invisible in a Bright Light. And I very much liked the Celeste, who was the main character of that. But I've also just finished doing the Tindims. And there's so many characters in there. I don't know. I just have so many that I don't really have one favourite.
Well, that's good in a way, I think. It's quite a good thing that you like them all.
Yeah.
I think there's like parts of every character, there's aspects of them that you kind of, or like especially ones that you don't like to begin with and then they grow on you. That's probably my favourite.
Do you have any characters that are almost autobiographical in a way?
Well, I think the truth is that you use everything you've got when you write. And really, unless you want to just use yourself for one book, you're rather wasting it. I see it as like, you know, when you make bread, you've got to put a bit of yeast in. So I put a bit of yeast of myself into it and see what happens.
Nice. I like that analogy.
So have any of your like book characters been, because like you said you put a bit of yourself into it, so have any of your characters been based on like other people in your life?
Everybody. I'm merciless.
Everyone and everything.
So my next question is, this might be quite difficult to answer, but how do you write your books and what processes do you kind of go through when you're writing a book or your idea process?
Well, when I started this out, I am immensely dyslexic. So it was much harder for me because in those days there was not much to help you. Nowadays there is Word, which has a voice recognition on it, which I use. And then I have Grammarly, which I do use. I use Scrivener. And I use Dragon Connect for the iPad. And then I have a thing called Remarkable, which is a pad which I write on. And it's got no internet. I mean, you can't play a game. You can't do anything. You just write or draw. And I use that a lot to get my ideas. Yeah.
Nice.
So I was wondering, just because like for the people that would possibly want to become writers or anything, so how do you come up with like, so when you're thinking of a story or whatever to write about, do you think in terms of chapters or do you think of original plot and then put them into chapters?
Good question. I think what I do is think of an angle. So I ask myself a question. And if the question is really interesting, I want the answer. And I think all books are a question with an author seeking an answer. And so my story often starts with a question. Like, for instance, The Door That Led to Where. The question was, what would happen if a young boy was sent back to the 1830s? Would he do better then than he does now? And that question came about because of a writer. Well, I've said it rather the wrong way, so it's rather blue in the whole thing. But this chap wanted to work for the Times, and he had been to school from 5 to 7, from 13 to 15, and then nothing more. No exams, nothing. And I asked this question a lot. And the answer was, well, he wouldn't get a job even as a cleaner. And I thought, well, that would be a real tragedy for English literature, because the man is Charles Dickens.
Wow.
And that made a lot of teachers go, what? And what I feel about writing is live your life, keep notebooks, keep a record of being you and what it's like to have a twin, and how you separate yourselves out from being twins, and how you find your own identity. I think keep those books and don't show them to each other. And then when you're 30 or 40, start writing. And remember you made those notebooks.
Yeah, that is a good idea, because like a lot of books are based around like teenagers or whatever. So when you have like a diary of what you were like as a teenager, it's easier to see into the eyes of one when you're older, perhaps.
Yeah, and it's very, I mean, the journey for you guys, sorry to go back to you guys, but the journey for you guys is a really tricky one, because you're both very clever, you're very wordy, and you most probably both want to do the same thing. But I think it's very important to find the nuances that make you you and you you.
Yeah. Quite a few of your books have fairy tale qualities to them. So which one is your like favorite of them all, and kind of why do you base them off fairy tales?
Well, I think fairy tales are very much to do with the soul of our being. I think they are ancient, they are magical,
True.
and they allow the psyche to repair itself in lots of ways. They were never meant for 5-year-olds. They were meant for your age. They were meant as a warning for young girls. And they're a great source of empowerment if told well. And people say to you, oh, we'll never read Cinderella. It's a terrible story. Actually, this is a girl who gets out of a hellish situation through her own imagination. To me, it's a good feminist story.
Yeah.
I do not see it a story of submission. The only person who's pathetic and weak in it is the prince.
Yeah.
The girl is amazing. And she may well dance her way out of that palace and into something quite incredible. So I feel all this negativity towards fairy stories is not seeing them in the right context. They were told by old women to young girls, talk about incest, to talk about things that they couldn't actually word. And they get passed on. Cinderella, it starts in China, way before the Bible is ever written. It starts traveling up the Silk Road. And as it gets nearer and nearer to Europe, it develops a more European way of being told. And it has a beginning, which no 5-year-old, and not even your age, should hear the beginning of.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about, there's quite a lot of like Disney films, like Snow White and.
That was the only one he did that was true to the book.
Oh really?
The only one.
Because there's what's it called? Sleeping Beauty as well, and they all have very questionable themes to them, really.
Especially if you read the original stories and not quite the Disney adaptations of them. Like, some of them have more darker and sinister twists in them than the Disney films might portray or whatever.
The problem starts with the Grimms, because the Grimm brothers were Calvinists, they were religious. And people got a little frightened about telling them about fairy stories. So there was a lot of making the fairy queen into Mother Mary. So when you read those stories, I advise the minute you get to Mother Mary, just forget it. Just put the fairy queen in and it makes a lot more sense.
What would you say is your favourite fairy tale?
Well, I love a writer called Angela Carter, who I'm sure you'll come across. And I think one of my favourites is Beauty and the Beast. I love that story. Yeah, yeah.
It is a tale as old as time.
Sorry for that awful pun.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, so on my next question, I'd like to ask you, how long on average does it take for you to write a book?
I'm so slow at the moment, and I'm struggling so much to write this one I'm doing. So I don't know. As long as it's going to take.
So has like lockdown affected your writing?
No, I've written 5 books in lockdown.
Wow.
Increased
I'm on
it
my
then.
6th. So I'm, if anything, I think I've slightly worked myself exhausted.
So does the period of World War II partially interest you, or well, I think history in general is...
I think I'm interested in history. I wrote Maggot Moon after I'd written Double Shadow, and really Double Shadow was a little ahead of its time, and no one wanted to deal with a rape in a book. And in a way, it would have been better if someone had said, look, just forget it, that's a grown-up book, and we could have taken it into another level. And so while I was waiting, I went on a diet, which you can tell never worked for me. And I was so crotchety. And I wrote down, I'm wondering what if? And then suddenly it went on. And some Standish Treadwell stood up and said, hello, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And that I wrote that book originally in 6 weeks.
Wow.
And then I put it away for a year. And then I took it out again and rewrote it in 3 months. And I submitted it, and it was bought within 24 hours.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, really incredible.
It's good.
Thank you very much for answering our questions.
Well, I'm so pleased to see you. I mean, I'm so sorry about the beginning. I've got to do something about my computer.
It's okay. It happens to all of us.
Yeah, it's
But
been really
it's
lovely
nice to
talking
see
to
you.
you.
It's been really lovely talking to you.
Take care, you two. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Take
Lots
care.
of love. Bye-bye.
Bye.
It was so great finally getting to meet her. I've been a fan of hers for so long.
Let's have a look at what our friends are recommending.
Hello, my name is Melissa, and I would like to recommend Hateless by Jennifer Brown. The story follows Valerie, a student, as she returns to school 5 months after her boyfriend Nick shot and killed several of their fellow classmates, many of whose names she wrote down on a list, the so-called hate list. I would really recommend this book to anyone who likes crime and thrillers, because this is really gripping.
Hi, my name's Louise, and I recommend you this book called Soulmates by Holly Bourne. This follows the romance between Poppy and Noah. However, little do they know that their love is tearing the world apart and that they are being tracked by a secret international agency preparing to separate them. If you like romance with a touch of supernatural, then this is definitely the book for you.
Hi, I'm Evie, and I'm going to recommend to you The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. It's such a great read about a young girl named Star who grows up in 2 very different worlds. The poor neighbourhood where she grew up in and her posh high school in the suburbs. I'd recommend this to anyone who's into activism and making a change in the world, as it focuses on the Black Lives Matter movement and racism and discrimination against the black community in our world today. It's such a great read and I'd highly recommend it.
Thank you for watching BookSmart. And remember, to have the chance to win one of her books, leave a comment down below with the hashtag BookSmart. Thank you for watching. Bye!